Hey, what is up, guys? Big Gamer out here. How are you guys doing today? I'm super, thanks for asking. So, guys, last week I did a video and we talked a little bit about E3 2016 and what I thought Xbox One needed to do to win E3 and what their press conference might have looked like. So, I thought, in the interest of fairness, this week we'll have a little look at Sony and what I think PlayStation as a brand needs to do to win this E3 and to continue to dominate the market. So the first thing we can look at is the fact that PS4 is the leading system. I mean, with well over 40 million units sold now and something like a 51% share of the market, it's more about what Sony can do to keep its momentum and what it can do to not blow the lead that it has. So the biggest risks to this that I can see, the first one is PlayStation Neo. So as far as the Neo goes, do I expect it to be at E3? Yes, absolutely I do, yeah. I think a big part of E3 is showing off flashy graphics, showing off new hardware, getting people excited and buzzing, and I think Sony won't miss that opportunity to bring Neo out and show that it is still relevant as far as cutting edge technology goes. Now, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to buy a Neo, and I'm sure I'm going to enjoy using it and running games like the latest Uncharted games and what have you at high frame rates. But can it segment the market? I mean, a lot of people are worried about maybe the proposition Sony put forward with the PS4 that was so simple. It's about games. It's about the box that works and works well. Being confused by all of a sudden having two different boxes on the shelves. Now, is Grandma Doris coming in buying a new PS4 for a grandson or grandnephew or whatever, gonna get confused when the person behind the desk sells this is a PS4 and it's $299, but this is also a PS4 and this is $399. She's gonna ask, well, what's wrong with the one that's $299? And why is the $399 one better? Do I want to spend $399? There's an Xbox over here that's $279. And could this become a sticky wicket for the guys at Sony? This is what I think. I think this was going to happen eventually. The market, as it is dominated in other technologies such as tablets, smartphones and PCs, is all based around more incremental updates, new tech, revising your OS on a regular basis, having devices that are sufficiently powerful enough to run the latest games in OSs, and the turnaround on those tends to be closer to anything from a year to 2 years, and at the moment we're living in a console cycle that is running at least 4 years long. And if you look at the last console cycle, which, let's be honest, probably didn't do much to benefit anyone, running 8 to 10 years long, our cycles are running too long. And I think this is the perfect opportunity now with the machines as they are, looking a little long in the tooth after only 3 years on the shelves. This might be the perfect opportunity to refresh that model and that strategy. And I don't think Sony should be too worried about the Neo. If all the games, as they say, do run on both machines, and we're just looking at the occasional resolution or frame rate bump, if everything's going to run at least, kind of 900p 30 frames on the old PS4, then I don't think we have too much to worry about. The second piece of hardware they could bring is PlayStation VR. And let's face it, guys, if anything's going to show up E3, it's going to be VR. I expect there to be lots of VR presence, and I think Sony will have the biggest presence of them all. I don't think this is necessarily affordable for the end consumer. But if we look back at how many Kinects were sold, that was a piece of hardware that did not work particularly well, that required more space than the PlayStation VR did. Admittedly, we're talking about a £150 unit compared to a £400 unit, but I think the quality of the VR headset is there to see. I do believe Sony will sell 1 million Neos and 1 million PS4 VR headsets Whether that's enough to sustain business long term, I really don't know. But they will bring it, and they will bring it secondly because it allows them to show off an enormous amount of games without having to worry about what they brought with them as far as big level first party IPs. Things such as, so let's go into the games quickly, guys. I expect there to be a big presence by No Man's Sky, possibly even something along the lines of a VR demo. Might be a little bit much of an ask, but Last Guardian's another one. I expect there to be updates on Last Guardian and a little bit more gameplay footage, maybe something that's not quite as constrained. We might start to get an idea of exactly what Last Guardian is. And the third thing I definitely think we'll see is Horizon Zero Dawn. Now that's the game that I think is going to be wheeled out on the Neo at some point, because when that game was announced and looking at that game, I did think to myself, I can't see that game's going to run well on a PlayStation 4 or comparable hardware, to be honest. Now, it's a PlayStation exclusive, to my knowledge. It's obviously made by Guerrilla Games that brought us Killzone, and because of that, I don't expect there to be any news on Killzone. I think Horizon Zero Dawn is still several months out, and they will have their hands full with that game. And I do believe, because it's going to be launching post the Neo cut-off date of October, I think in fact all September's games will have a Neo mode as well, patched in at least, that we will see that running on a Neo, and that will be one of the games that I believe will not run well, particularly on the PlayStation 4 as it is now. I think that is a game we could see sub 1080p and 30 frames on the old PS4, and it's one I do expect to be upscaled and running at 60 on the Neo. One thing we could potentially see is a logo / tease for either a Resistance or a Last of Us 2 or something like that. I think with Naughty Dog having finished and shipped Uncharted 4, I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility that Sony would have gone to Naughty Dog and said, look, is there any chance you could at least just confirm that you're in talks or thinking about The Last of Us in one way or another? With the movie apparently in kind of directorial hell at the moment, I could see maybe them keeping the IP fresh by just announcing, look, we get ready, we are thinking about doing a Last of Us 2, and I think everyone knows at some point with the amount of money it made, they're going to go back to that game. It's just not going to be in the form that everyone thinks. I don't think we're going to see another Joel and Ellie type story, but I think it's going to be a similar, a game set in the same universe, new characters, new situations. Is this going to be enough for Sony to win E3? Now, what I think they've got is, I think they've got at least a few big hitters, first party wise, they can wheel out to help fight off the competition. As far as Xbox are going to come loud with their games, with their scale bounds and their crackdowns and their exclusives. Nintendo will always be strong with their exclusives, especially considering the only thing they're showing is Zelda, and the amount of time that's been in production, that'll be a good game. And I think the last thing they need to do is just, and I think they will do it well, is they're going to cover off, they're going to hedge their bets and cover off the other avenues for the competition. In the Neo, they're covering off the industry leading chips of the NX, and they're covering off the Xbox's Scorpio. And now with the Neo, because it is a kind of an overclocking of the GPU and CPU inside the PlayStation 4 as it already exists, I believe that they actually came to the market on this quite late. I believe when Microsoft said at the start of the year that new hardware was where they were looking, larger revisions to what they already have on the market, and following the leak on Nintendo's market-leading chips, that they didn't really wait to find out what the opposition was doing. I think they went straight to the tech guys. They asked, how much can we push these components that we have already paid for? can we repackage this? Can we overclock this? How many teraflops can we get out there? They're not going to hit the levels, I don't think, that necessarily the NX or the Scorpio will, but I think they'll be very price competitive. I think they will close the gap enough that people won't mind, and I do believe the Neo will sell well, and it will cover off any wow factor Xbox and Nintendo bring. I do expect PlayStation to have a very strong E3, very large presence, and continue leading the market throughout the rest of the year. Whether or not their gambles will pay off long term, it's hard to see at the moment. But that's what I expect, guys. And if you like the video, like it, subscribe if you want, and look forward to another video when we discuss Nintendo and what we think Nintendo's strategy for the rest of the year might be. Cheers, guys.